Okay, so we're doing this post-game video in a little bit of a different style than we normally do. Not only are we going to be talking about the game, but we're going to be talking about all the context surrounding the game. What other extra pieces of information are relevant to this conversation? Now, I'll say this right here, for this game between the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Montreal Canadiens, wherein the Canadiens won 4-2, I actually sat down and watched the entire game. It's been a while since I've sat down fully and devoted all of my undivided attention to a Habs game. There's always something else going on, but because today the NHL was kind of slow, I was like, okay, great, the game's on Sportsnet, let's turn it on. Also, I had a horse in the race because I had Mike Matheson, Justin Danforth. Who else did I have? Sean Corrali, Jake Bean, and Cole Sillinger on my fantasy team, because I am a fantasy G. But all horses in the race aside, we had ourselves an update in regards to this Canadiens and Blue Jackets game that was super interesting and super relevant to the conversation of Oilers goaltending trades. Now, yes, we have already made a few videos just going over the statements here. Apparently, the Oilers want to hold on to their goaltending and see if they could stabilize things for now, rather than making an immediate panic type of trade. We know this, but that doesn't change what we saw from this game. You had yourselves in attendance 3 scouts from the Edmonton Oilers at tonight's Canadiens and Blue Jackets game. And you also had Mark Spector going out there and talking about which one of these scouts were present. Assistant GM Brad Holland, pro scout Warren Reichel, and Oilers goaltending scout Jeff Salachko were each on hand in Columbus to see the Jackets versus the Habs. It was Merzlikins versus Montembeault. Now, I'm going to go out there on a limb and say that the Oilers goaltending scout being at this game probably wasn't because he's trying to look at Patrik Laine. He's probably not there because he's taking a look at a defenseman or a forward or whatever. By definition, he scouts goaltenders, so he's out there most likely looking at one of Merzlikins or Montembeault. You've got 2 other Oilers scouts and executives there as well, so if you wanted to follow the smoke, just kind of look at the rumors, see what's been going on and how this plays into that idea, then it's very obvious to see, hey, these guys are here most likely to check out Sam Montembeault. And hey, I'm going to go out there and say it, Montembeault had a good game. Of course, the Canadiens won. You'd like to see that result on paper if you're a Habs fan. But Montembeault had himself a really solid showcase in what was ultimately a pretty tight game for the majority of this entire contest. It wasn't until the last few minutes where the Canadiens opened it up, winning 4-2 with 2 very late goals. But for the most part, this was just tight the entire stretch. The first period, the Blue Jackets outshot the Canadiens 13-9. Final score at the end of the first was 0-0. So, hey, pretty good to see Sam Montembeault putting up a perfect first period. In the second, you had 2 goals scored by each team. Patrik Laine and Yegor Chinakhov scored for CBJ. Newhook and Caufield get on the board for Montreal. These goals were not really Montembeault's fault. I mean, the Patrik Laine one was a breakaway, kinda, so you can't really go out there and blame the goaltender for that. Obviously, the goal itself wasn't the best because the puck kind of bounced in off of Montembeault's left toe, I believe. So not really the best kind of goal for the Canadiens to give up, but not really one that you could necessarily blame the goaltender on. As for the Chinakhov goal that was scored, this one was just a really nice passing play in front by CBJ. It was Werenski out in front of Voronkov. He goes cross to Chinakhov. Montembeault is down and out. He's diving. He's stretching himself out to go to the left side. He's not able to get there. That's not really the goalie's fault either. Blame the Canadiens' defense for allowing 3 really tight cross-crease passes to go through all at once. So, even though Sam Montembeault let in 2 goals in this game, he had a total of 26 saves. There were a few chances where he had to stand tall. The Blue Jackets had quite a few stints where they were cycling it around. There was one 2.5-minute shift that the Blue Jackets had. I believe it was in the third period where Montembeault had to stay true to his form. But ultimately, the Canadiens escaped this one with the 4-2 victory after you see yourselves 2 goals scored late. Yoel Armia gets a tip-in goal off a Mike Matheson shot, and then Mike Matheson just a few minutes later throws the puck over to Gustav Lindstrom, who fires it into the open net. Good for me, because Matheson is on my fantasy team. The guy went out there with 2 straight assists in the final 3 minutes of the game, so I'm very happy about that. Just in case you're wondering, because I know y'all do care about my fantasy team, I'm saying that sarcastically. He had a really good showcase out of Cole Sillinger. Blocks, shots, hits he got out there. Sean Corrali had a bunch of hits in this game, so awesome for him to see there. Justin Danforth had a block. Mike Matheson had 3 blocks on top of the 2 assists that he had scored, and then Jake Bean had a block as well, so I'm pretty happy about that. Honestly, if I had to summarize this game based off of what I saw personally, I'd say that both of these teams, Montreal and Columbus, were pretty sloppy. Like, I don't know if it's the case because I've just been watching so many Canucks games and they're one of the better teams in the NHL this year, but so many breakout passes, so many lobs into the middle, into the neutral zone, so many offensive zone chances, dump-ins around the net, etc. that just didn't really work for both of these teams. I felt like the amount of turnovers and the amount of sloppy plays that were made definitely was indicative of where these teams are in the standings. Of course, the Canadiens coming out there with yet another victory against the Columbus Blue Jackets, rounding out their record on this road trip. That's all right, but the Blue Jackets, I mean, from this game, it didn't really look like the Blue Jackets had too much of a fighting chance, of course, because the game was tied 2-2 until the final 3 minutes. Like, any team has a chance, anybody has a chance to make a difference in that respect, but I was just kind of watching for hits, blocks, and shots, because that is unfortunately the meta this year in my fantasy league. Goals and assists are so last year. But either way, the Canadiens end up winning, and the interesting thing is that you had multiple Edmonton Oilers scouts and executives present in this game. I would go out there and say that when it comes to the way Merzlikins played, if you wanted to give the devil's advocate and say, okay, maybe they were there scouting the opposing goaltender, Merzlikins had a 900 save percentage in this one, 30 shots against and 27 saves. Not really an amazing performance, but he got the job done well enough to give the Blue Jackets a chance. Of course, the goals that went in, the tip-in from Armia, you can't really go out there and expect that to be stopped. The Caufield goal was off of a really weird rebound, where I honestly felt like the goaltender should have had an opportunity to grab it and stabilize it, but he didn't. Alex Newhook also had himself a really nice shot too, which is tough to stop for a goaltender. But either way, Samuel Montembeault going out there with the great showcase in front of Oilers executives. That is the big, important, meaty part, that there is a goaltending scout that was in attendance from the Oilers, and because this is yet another one of these little game slips for them to refer to when evaluating which goalie could be the most valuable for them in a trade. We know that the Canadiens may not be on the receiving end of one of these trade requests or trade proposals for a while, because the Oilers want to expand more so on Skinner, Pickard, and Jack Campbell. But we'll wait and see what the future has in store, because a game like this could definitely be the difference between the Oilers making a trade for, let's say, Montembeault, or maybe a James Reimer in Detroit, or a John Gibson in Anaheim. Whatever showcase you can get of a guy is valuable, and that's exactly what the Oilers did here. They had 3 viewings from 3 individuals throughout the organization who wanted to look at Montembeault here today. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this Oilers-Canadiens trade update, how the Oilers are still involved in the conversation of Canadiens goaltenders, and how they probably were going out there and scouting Montembeault rather than Merzlikins. If everything goes differently, and let's say the Oilers make a trade for Elvis within the next, 2 days, then okay, this entire video is wrong. I apologize. But for now, this is the tale of the tape. The Canadiens win 4-2, and Montembeault gets a pretty good showcase in there. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.